Welcome back to Crazy. It is your Saturday morning chill with the Mad Christian here on the YouTube's internet sphere. We're a little bit late this morning, and that is because I had to do my job, which is not this. My job is to be a pastor in the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, and that means sometimes Saturday mornings you got to meet with people. But all the same, I am here for at least the next 2 hours hanging out with you. So pull up your cup of mind-altering substance. Today I have a fine Nespresso Nicolia, something like that, mixed in with some butter and then blend it nice and warm. And this should hopefully get me going. My hands are so cold. You can see I got my sweatshirt on because I had to stand in the cold for this meeting a few moments ago. But hopefully I'll be warming up and handling your questions. Got a bunch of them already lined up, but we'll be looking for super chats, especially on the side. But that doesn't mean I'm going to ignore you entirely. And all sorts of, what do we call them, mad agents over there are going to be willing to help get your question to the fore if it really is something that is pressing and needs my attention. So with all those things, I had to do a lot of thinking this week about what to cut. I don't know, maybe I'm just getting old, but it's kind of like, all right, I spend every day doing so many minutes and hours of this, that, and this, that, and I know what most of it is. And then I have these big things that are like going to be more than a couple of hours to do. I call them projects in my head. And I have a big pile of those. And what I've noticed is that my piles of projects that exist in real time is getting larger. And that my piles of projects that I'm storing as ideas that I'd like to get into real time is also getting larger, but none of them are really moving, not as many as I would like. And I started to ask, why is this? What is it that is truly impacting my productivity, if we're going to talk in those terms? But it wasn't just my productivity, because I've been asking this question about my own health as well. My mobility, how often I'm taking exercise in the day or getting outside for a breath, how much of this warm brown morning potion I am drinking to live. Those kinds of things. It's all like, okay, so part of that is being driven to try to get these projects done. Why do I drink the coffee? Because I feel like I got to do more work. Why do I do more work? Because I have these projects and they're things I love and I want to see them become good gifts to the world that God created and has redeemed in His Son Jesus. So of course I'm going to have another cup of Java. Thank you very much. But maybe if this was like freestyle poetry, like I would feel really cool, by the way. I was just thinking that. Like that could almost have been. That was fun. I grew up in that environment. Snap. Maybe I should stop asking, what can I find and add to get better at what I'm doing? I still like that question. I'm not against that question. But I've spent a good week and a half on, maybe I should cut something. And the hardest things to cut, of course, are going to be the ones that you care about because they're your ideas and no one else's, but they're also the easiest things to cut. So that's where I started. But I keep looking at, I don't know, everything, and asking then about my days, not just like my project and my week, but in my days that affect my weeks, what are the things I'm doing that are taking the most time? I know it's not playing games with my kids. I would like it to be that. I would like to be able to be accused of spending too much time with my children by my parish. I hope I get to that point where that is the complaint they have. You know, we love Pastor Fisk, but the one thing he does is he spends too much time with his kids. Like, what a great complaint, right? I'd love to be that guy. But right now, that's not who I am. Right now, I can tell you, and this is what this kind of came to, I can tell you honestly, I'm the guy who spends too much time with his freaking computer. Hello, Macintosh. And I got to, just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in, I got to do it. What are you going to do, right? You have your life on your computer. Unless you're one of like a very special and elite crew who gets to do it only via iPad, and God bless you. But a lot of us, it's that digital screen or bust for the day. And in that then, I've already cut Facebook, right? I'm not sitting there scrolling Facebook. Ugh. The drudgery. I forgive me if you love it, to each his own. But the drudgery is just mind numbing. And once I disentangled myself from it, far easier to still believe Twitter has a reason. But Facebook, I don't know. Anyhow, that was a bit of a disconnect tangent. I already cut that. What am I going to cut? And it's not Google. I'm not surfing Google all that much. I know I'm not, because I have a list called Dr. Google. And on my list of Dr. Google is things I want to spend at least 10 minutes looking at on Dr. Google that I think are really interesting. Or at least I did, a year ago when I started the list. That list is too big. I can't even check Dr. Google more for stuff that I'm really curious about learning. Unless it's in part of the immediate fires of the moment of the day. Right? And I got to know this information now. It's all defer. Yeah. And that's fine. That's survival in the media jungle that we live in. But shouldn't we be able to have some list somewhere of a thing that is interesting that I can read about? Since I live in this age where I can, right? Since I live in this amazing technological time where I can, in fact, learn about anything I want almost immediately in great detail. That's sweet. What a jungle to play in should you have a village that perhaps thought playing in the jungle was a good idea. Let the analogy be what it is. So again, I'm looking at my computer, and I was forced into this. By the way, you remember the Mac the Mac catastrophe saga of Christmas 2019? 3 days before Christmas Eve, the Mac is shut, and the next day, it was 4 days, and then the next day, third day, the Mac is open and does not work, and gee, my goodness gracious, Pastor Fisk had quite a 3-week series there, and then even when he got the new Mac that he's using right now, coming back online has been hard. It's March, and I still feel like I have not recovered from that dead computer. Why is that? I mean, that's it right there. A dead computer changed my life. I have a living computer now, and I want to change its life, not have it change mine. And so I'm asking the question, what can I cut? I can't cut a computer. You're crazy. Don't talk that way. I am not anti-tech, though perhaps I am not going to worship he who shall not be named anymore. Let the reader have no idea what I'm talking about, because that's a big inside gamified part of my life right there. So you don't know what I mean. It's a joke, inside joke to myself, which I shouldn't say publicly, but you got to deal with it. I'm going to go on. You can't give up tech. You can't give up tech. It's impossible. I maybe not. Okay, but I'm not gonna. I watched a documentary with my family, and I didn't know what it was. And documentaries usually are pretty safe, and I felt pretty good about it afterwards. But I don't know. I'd recommend it as a family movie now. It's called Off the Grid. Fascinating. I mean, go check that one out. If you want a mind trip, right? Just slow down for an evening and watch a story about a bunch of people who live without electricity in the northern wilds of Canada. And they're not all the same. They don't all live in the same place. And that's some weird stuff right there. Makes me think of the Amish slightly, right? But the world of living without tech is a deeper rabbit hole than I think any of us who might run around in the Pentecostal fervor and say, oh, the video games, or oh, the TV, or oh, the cable. We say it like they're gods. And the thing is, they're not. They're created things. They're tools to be used for good. But when we turn them into gods, they destroy us. Right? And that's the thing. So when the tech has become such that it dominates your life, your family. And I'm just talking about, again, the difference between how much time I'm spending particularly every day with my children, and now, here's the big bad word, how much time I spend every day on email. So if you sent me an email in the last week and a half, or maybe it was a week or so, you got a special email reply. It said something like, please forgive me. I may never read this. And I think it's for Lent. I'm just going to make that the public decision, even though I don't think I had that thought initially. But let's just say that for Lent, I am telling myself that if I don't read every email, God is still in charge of the world and everything will be fine. And I don't know, maybe your email inbox just doesn't matter to you and it's not that big a deal. But I have been fighting inbox zero for probably 6 years now, and I have been a victor of inbox zero. I have destroyed, I have won, I have held tight so that the day that I sent this auto reply into the nether, in order to let people know I was no longer going to necessarily read every email. On that day, I was at inbox zero. I had properly completed and responded to all memos and subjects, including whatevers, right? In appropriate ways, and filed information for future. All that is all done. And then I said, I just might not do this anymore. Because that's the thing for me, is either I'm reading them all and replying, or it's not inbox zero. And I have, again, come to the conclusion that I'm going to test the hypothesis that I don't need inbox zero to survive. And that means I don't even really need email to survive, but there are still people who use it, so I'll still check it once a day. But I haven't used the clock. It's not, 15 minutes and I'm out, but that's the goal, is no more than 15 minutes a day of email. And in that, my pattern, right? If it's my family by blood and they're dying, I'm gonna look at that one. If it's my family, I'm gonna look at it. If it's my congregation, you're gonna always hear from me. But if it's anything other than those two things, I can't promise you I even read it. And the reason is simply because there's only so many hours in the day, and I just don't think we realize how much of that, the grid and life on the grid since we got on the grid a century ago plus, how much this has just impacted our subjugation to the clock. Not that I'm against clocks. I want to buy a lot more of them now. But it is really dramatically impacted than our families. That's where it's at for me as a person. I'm not doing this as some rambling, crazy, there's a demon named Tech out there, we got to fight him or something. I mean, maybe there is, I don't know. I'm doing this because as a Christian man, I have an 8-year-old son who I need to spend more time with. Straight up. And I don't care if I like him or not, he likes me or not, we like what we're doing or not. Like, how did this world take us from each other? If we were living right now, if I'm some tribal, guy, wandering peoples, hunter, gatherer, whatever, and I got an 8-year-old son, he's becoming a man right now, and he's not with the women anymore, and he's with me in some way. Every day, all day. Now, I'm not going to claim some noble savage argument from a century ago about, silly, the philosophical arguments, they really did get angels on the head of a pin a little bit with this kind of stuff. But I'm not, in case you're worried, I'm not making a noble savage argument at all. What I'm saying is that human civilization needs certain things and realizes wherever it is, as it's in sort of like a survival scenario of the decayed and sinful planet, we are always striving to survive. And in that, we are finding what is good and trying to pass it on. And if we have more or if we have less, that's what civilization and culture is. And it is always believed that the father's role and impact on the son and his relationship with his son is everything to the next age. And so we find ourselves now in a maybe several generations, but certainly in a generation in which the ability to impact your son is almost taken entirely from you. Almost. If you're living the standard American life. And I am. I'm very fortunate that I have the freedom for a home office. But even in that, my accessibility to engage that little 8-year-old mind, I'm finally putting it on a calendar now, trying to make it twice a day for at least 15 minutes, morning and evening, and just do it. But what I want is more time than that, right? What I want is to bring them alongside my work, But that takes more time, not less time. That doesn't save time. That engages time. But I want him to see not merely what I do as a pastor, but what I do as a man, as a husband, as a father, as a financier for the family, a steward, I played with him the other day a little bit, make sure he understood it. I was like, see that chair right there, son? That one chair in the room that there's only one place to sit in the whole room? Yeah, that's my throne. You will treat that with respect, but so that you might grow to sit in it. And I told him, go sit in it now and treat it with honor, because that relationship, right? I'm not a king. I'm a father. But I want my son to want to be that, to love his wife, to love his family, to love his neighbors, to love his job. And I'm pretty convinced from what happened to me and just the random system that there's a lot of dangers just kind of out in the world regardless. Homeschool, public school, doesn't matter. The thing that God put in place to help the son with that is the father. So I'm looking at 2 hours a day of email, and I'm looking at this desire of mine, right? That's good, I think. So I made the decision I made. And for Lent, then, it's been hard. It's been really hard. I can't imagine actually giving up email. I don't even know. I cower in fear before the gods. Is that kind of thing. Hold on. I'm going to drink coffee on that one. That's my first sip. That's really good. Thank you, Lord. Yeah. I can't imagine. I think it could be done, but I think it would take more planning. I may do it eventually. We'll see. What other ways of e-communication you can use? And I'm still doing a lot of different e-communications, and they're already overtaxed. All of them, I think. And with that said, though, I think you could maybe get out of email in certain industries if you had to. It'd be very difficult because there's so much need for it. You almost need like a bot to scan your email for keywords that then got forwarded to some other system like Evernote, right? Which then would pull in emails from certain individuals. You probably could set that up, but then you still have to reply to those individuals somehow. So it could be done. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to get down to 15 minutes a day of email, and we'll see how it goes. It's only been 3 or 4 days, and it's been nerve-wracking. For the most part, things have been pretty good, I think, but it's weird. It's like a spiritual crisis almost. How much I believe, you may not be with me on this. Maybe I'm alone in this, but I don't think I am. How much I believe, each contact point and notification that comes into my sphere of I don't know what I call it, the matrix hookups, whatever comes into that, the value I give it over what I've already decided, like say on paper, like my own words, right? Over that. So if I've decided for my day, I'm going to do this, 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 and this, and then in comes this email, how often that takes priority then in time over these other things I think I want to do, and how that adds up. I haven't done all the things I said I want to do, and I only put 5 of them there, right? And it's because of these. It's not always email. It's notifications. It's inputs. It's all the various pieces that come from the matrix, again, I don't know what to call it. Social everything, life, right? Which now includes the internet. They send you away from your previous plan. And it's not that I don't think it's that you don't ever want the inputs, but at some point you got to start controlling the inputs. Your inbox should not be bigger than your to-do list, in some ways. Or should only be filled with all the stuff that you really do want to process and think about doing, and not just be guilted into doing. I forget who said it. I think it was on a Tim Ferriss show a while ago, that when somebody sends you an email or a text message or a phone call, whenever that comes at you, it is an implicit, unrequested demand of your time. You think about that. So the text message comes in. It might be your best friend. You're glad they text. They might be your worst enemy, and it ruins your day. But either way, they are demanding your attention, and it's not their fault. They're not trying to. There's no malice here. There's just the tech itself. And the tech itself prioritizes them in your attention from where they were before. It is not set up to only be there so that when you decide, I think I'll check my mail, I'll check my messages, that then you go and you have to find it somehow. That's not how it works, right? It presses itself into your mindset. And that alone takes away the pace, the rhythm, and the time of the day. It takes away the focus and the sober mindfulness of every moment. And I'm not leaving this world. I think I live here. But I am asking, do I have to let that tell me how to engage my son, right? Do I have to let that tell me how I engage my God? Isn't it funny that even when we talk about things like morning prayer, probably the biggest concern is always going to be how much time it takes, right? How much the clock tells us whether or not we've prayed to God enough. I mean, it's just so weird, isn't it? And it's not always that, but certainly is on Sunday morning. It's a fascinating thing. I don't want to get into that one right now, but that to me is all part of this. It's like we have to live in a world with time. How did God tell us to keep time? Did he tell us to keep time in hours and seconds and milliseconds and productivity, right? Or did he tell us to keep time in the lights of the sky, yeah, and human family relationships bleeding out into culture and society around you? That's all I'm pondering here. And you got to have a clock. You need more clocks. But I want to start thinking about life more on the day-night cycle and on the week cycle. And it's already there, right? It's all built into nature. It's already there. But I want to start planning like that. Thinking about a day as not as a time of like so many hours in the day, but as a time of so many actions that can reasonably be achieved under the sun. And there's lots of good, like real productivity stuff going on about this. So that the tact I'm taking is that you can do 3 major projects a day. And then you can include in that maybe a 4th if you count night with the family, right? And so trying to like just approach my task list that way. And by achieve major projects, it means like you have 3 2-hour solid workloads available to you probably in a day as a human. It is unlikely you can really get more than that. It may not be healthy for you to try. And so trying to plan in that way, that doesn't mean you can't have smaller things, but email, if it's a 2-hour task, ouch, right? Think about that. So it's family, if you're lucky, right? It's email, ouch, and then you can do 2 major kind of things a day, hopefully, right? That's tough. That's tough. Anyhow, not trying to whine. I'm kind of excited about it. I think it's been good for me so far as an experiment, and I've enjoyed it. Okay, since I don't see any super chat questions coming to the fore immediately right now, I'm going to go ahead and shift gears over to your questions and answers. Of course, without flesh, don't forget about my new book. If you haven't picked it up yet, lots of good responses I'm hearing from this thing. So that's fantastic. My other books, Echo and Broken, are out there as well. The newsletter, we're shifting the gears on the newsletter just a touch this week, and it just, I don't know, consider it Lenten ponderings, a little less random catastrophe from the present digital age, and a little more, just thinking through the joy of pain, the comfort of knowing your God has already walked this path for you in Christ. So a little more of that in the newsletter this week. Got to sign up to get it. And of course, everything that you desire otherwise is probably findable at the.com if you get yourself there. So we're going to go to some of your questions here, going to the new scene. Always have to remember my system auto shifts to automatic focus, which is annoying, so I got to shift it back to manual. Just did that, and you can see my little announcements. Oh my goodness. And let's see, I liked this one. I thought was good. Oh, I have stuff covering that. That's because you can see all my special secret files. Oh my goodness. You've seen my inside spaces. Let's see. I still thank you, Evernote, but you are not helping me. Let's do it this way. That's probably a little more helpful. Dear Reverend Fisk, you know what? I'm gonna cough for a second. This is totally not cool. This might work. There you go. I think that worked. Dear Reverend Fisk, as I divorce myself more and more from the evangelical church, I am finding that some of their axioms, it's a great word, axiom, some of their axioms are beginning to bother me. One in particular is, when I keep hearing they say that one needs more than head knowledge of the truth, one must also have heart knowledge. I never questioned this before, but now I find it problematic. Isn't it the Holy Spirit that provides revelation through the Word of God into the minds of man? Isn't it through the cognitive knowledge of the truth that affects this change by driving us to repentance and creating faith? Question. Well, here's the thing. This is why this argument's stupid. It's not stupid, and it is a stupid argument. I mean, I'm just going to say that right up. If you buy this thing, you're not, you're thinking only with your heart. So you like what it says. And that's actually the definition of foolishness, biblically speaking. So how do I say that? I mean, that's kind of dumb. And that's what they're going to advocate with this effectively is, you should think with your heart more. Kind of, but not quite. But this is why this is stupid. Okay. So the argument postulates that there are two different ways of knowing God as a human. One of them is emotionally, and one of them is thinkingly. That's a stupid argument. There is nothing in the Bible that would lead anybody to believe that your brain and your heart are two different persons. You with me? They're not even two different natures. They're two different members of your nature. And so to think you need, in either case, more of you is stupid. And then in the best case scenario, to think that you need more of the Word of God in your heart, that's not bad. To need more of the Word of God in your heart and therefore less in your mind, that's also stupid. I don't know how else to say it, right? I'm not trying to be mean. I'm trying to be really clear about the utter folly that happens before you get to this kind of argument. You're already so far out there in nonsense land. I believe people are still saved, but they're in nonsense la-la land Christianity. And they're so far out there, they don't even know the difference. That someone comes along and says there's a difference between knowing God with your mind and knowing God with your heart. And they go, well, that sounds like the salvation of the church and me. I'll follow that. Like, what? Look. Each single one of us is a human creature. This is so awesome. This is so utterly and completely awesome. We are not just animals. We are not just spirits. We're humans. And all sorts of people, scientists, religions, how do we distinguish between the animals and the humans? Yeah, they don't ask how do we distinguish between the angels and the humans, but they say when we die, we all become angels, so that's what the pagans say there too. And none of them really can just relish that the answer is that how are we different than the animals? Well, we're like the angels. How are we different than the angels? Well, we're like the animals. It is so awesome to be a human. We're a completely different thing. Image of God, headship of creation. It's just, we have not pondered this nearly enough. We're too busy looking at our iPhones, right? So you got that to begin with. And then in that, the being of a human, there's a number of different things we could call members, parts, expressions, parts of the nature, right? The nature is human. But then within the nature, there are divisions, and how, I don't know. I've not made an Eastern study of the science of the divisions of the body's spiritual whatevers. I don't know. I know what the Bible talks about. I know the Bible uses the heart and the head both positively to describe being human, and that both of these things, heart and head, are redeemed in Jesus, who fully human had both a heart and a head, both physically and, whatever we're talking about here with these ideological understandings of heart and head. He had all that. He redeemed all that simply by being it, and then he paid for yours and the whole world's with its too by letting his heart get pierced by a spear. And you think it wasn't pierced when he had to watch Peter flee? Watch Judas die. So, the heart and head of man are good and bought with a price. More on that in the podcast. Bought with a price. Whew. So it's stupid to set them against each other. Why would you set two things that are you against each other? A house divided cannot stand, right? I mean, that's what Jesus said and stuff. Like, why would you do that? It's a stupid argument. Now, stupid as the argument is, it is a absolutely precise diagnostic description of the problem in most Lutheran churches today. Now, what do I mean by that? Diagnostic. The evangelical world, the radicals, I would just want to start calling, I don't even want to do sacramentarian anymore. Like we had John the sacramentarian, my friend. We've got a good rapport, I think. In my mind, you send good information, you listen, you got a good mind. Okay, cool. He's out there in listener land. And I don't know if it was you or someone else who called me out about using the word reformed too loosely and not giving enough heed to the historic distinctions between, say, the Pentecostal and, say, a really good Calvinist body, covenant body. Fair enough, and yet sacramentarian is the unified thing. We've been all through all that together, right? And you can go back and find it if you don't want. But the real word that the Lutherans used to use way back before we were like sacramentarians, let's argue, like initially they just called it the Radical Reformation. The Radical Reformation, and it was because it changed so many things in such terribly bad ways. In any case, the Radical Reformation, sacramentarians is what that means in the future, and maybe I'll tell that story more another time. Smashing idols and all that, or not idols, smashing statues and all that. But my point here is what the Radical Reformation, as it exists today as evangelicalism in America, the radicals, the sacramentarians, what they're really, really good at is sniffing out where the church is kind of missing something. They're pretty good at it. They do it all the time. They spend money on it, way beyond what kind of insular Lutheran world does. Every once in a while, we'll throw a little money at a study or something that we really want to know about, but we don't really publicize them well. I mean, we just don't have the infrastructure that relies on marketing the way that the evangelical world does. And so they'll do stuff sometimes, and it's out there and you can find it. And so they diagnose stuff. They're really good at finding holes. The best documentaries and books I've seen on why Sunday school doesn't work and why youth group is a problem are not LCMS liturgistas out in there in the warfare. They're from evangelicals. Evangelicals who still worship with systems I wouldn't want to worship with, and yet they were able to diagnose, again, both of those things. What is it? Already Gone is the book on Sunday school, and what is it? The Divided documentary on youth group. It's really valuable, right? Diagnostics. The problem is that the radicals, as good as they are at finding the diagnostic problem, often come back with their same radical solution just repackaged. And they don't really address the problem. They further their issue. And so, of course, out there where they've found where they've already decided that the Spirit works through how you feel, any further correction that would come to them about what they know will be countered with the idea that knowledge is not necessary and all you need is more Spirit. And that'll just push itself as a heterodoxy further and further and further until eventually it does whatever it does. But what they are seeing that is right still is that Christianity in the United States is more of a club than a village. And in being more of a club than a village, there are a lot of people with varying levels of investment. And the investment is usually some matter of intellectual assent. And that's valuable. But then sometimes it would appear that there is a disconnect between what people say they believe and what people do, what they act on. This is the whole James 2 argument, by the way. And so in that, in a place where you see these clubs of people saying, we believe this, but then acting just like everybody else, that maybe what's in the head, in theory, needs to get to the heart as well. And that's a fair diagnosis. It really is. Of American Christianity across the board. I mean, Roman Catholics could really use that a little bit. It's all of us. So I don't mind that. What I mind is thinking that the answer is therefore less knowledge. I think that's stupid. I think it's the knowledge that has to get into the heart. That's what my whole beef is. That's why I keep retranslating everything as often as I can into as many different ways of thinking about it as possible. Because it needs to not just be a head game, it needs to be a person game. Not a heart game, a person game, a whole person game. Who are you? Baptized into Jesus. And if someone doesn't understand the knowledge of that, they need to know it. And if someone doesn't care about the knowledge of that, then it would help if their heart did. So I love the distinction as the Lutherans teach it, which is that your human body, your human existence, your being who you are, spirit, life, and flesh, has more or less 3 different edges. I don't know what to call them. Edges of your nature. And they are your mind, your logos. I mean, this comes from the Greeks too. The Greeks saw this. Your mind, your logos, where you think, your logic. And then you have your heart, your pathos, your passion, which is also the root of your suffering. And the Buddhists kind of get that a little bit too. And then you have the ethos, your works, your ethics, what you do. You can loosely connect these things to heart, hands, and mind, which is fine. And that's good. You're all these things, and Christianity redeems all of them. Mouth, hands, heart is another way of understanding these. And importantly, as detailed in a book called Broken, rationalism, mysticism, and moralism, they'd be how you worship these things, these gifts of God. Yeah. Great question. All right, answer, I suppose. I guess I'm just going to go this way. That was the slow way. Here we go. I am saying, good morning, everybody. How you doing? What time is it? It is 9:30. We've been going an hour. I see lots of comments out there. I don't see any super chats. You guys went crazy last week, and now you used it all. Ha! That's all right. But I'll just keep pushing on then. Rather than dig back through the comments, we're going to listen to... Oops. Sorry, world. I'll get better at this. I promise. We just changed the system for getting questions into the system. So please just pay no attention to the email that was on the screen a moment ago. Hi, I loved you since Worldview Everlasting. Thank you. I noticed on some of your episodes like SMCO2. This is awesome. It's like we live in a dystopian future. Wait, we actually do. This is my new favorite gamified part of life. Like, look at that. We're in some dystopian future where they've taken away our ability to communicate and watch TV shows, so everything has to be done by like digital code, right? So we're watching shows like SMC02, 02220. Oh, it had a title at least. Wisdom, terms of scale, people like that. Oh, goodness. Okay. And, there's a picture of a coffee mug. Yes, there is. How can I get one in real life, or a t-shirt bumper sticker thingy you can hang from your... Yeah. Merch Life. So the first hour of this TV show this morning was me talking a little bit about saying no. So I have lists and lists and lists of projects. Lists and lists and lists of awesome, so cool things to do that I am admitting I'm 41. I'm not going to do before I die a lot of it. Okay. I would still include getting the Mad Christian logo onto a coffee mug, something I plan to do before I die. But I'm not going to stress about it, because the more I stress about it, the more I am unable to do the things that would get me to the point where we can have that out there. So right now, we are in logo development. That's where we are. There is a logo, kind of, just that I made up and put out there, and that's what I photoshopped onto a picture of a coffee cup, and that is what you see. There is no such coffee cup that exists. There is a logo in development that is similar and yet takes it in a more permanent and brand identity forming direction, and that will, the only logjam in that is me. There are others who are working on it. They're doing great work, and they're having to wait for me every 1 to 2 weeks to really give it some attention. 3 things a day, if you really care about them deeply, right? So that one probably is not one of those 3. I could probably get, but anyway, point being, that's where we are. And then the hope is that eventually that thing will be on everything you could possibly want it on. I'd like to do more. I got all sorts of dreams about this kind of stuff. It's just in terms of scale, as the episode says, how do we scale it so that my time doesn't get worse than it is? Because it's already so bad. I'm going to make a change. Yeah. And so that's it. But yeah, I don't know. You know that if you go to like Redbubble, you can just type on your computer, like Mad Christian or whatever, and like, take a screenshot of it and upload it and print it onto a coffee mug. Like you could just do that. Yeah. It's kind of like the Everbook thing. Like everyone's got their own. None of them are the same. I don't know. So I'm going to go ahead and do something really fast here, and we're going to get rid of that, but I'm make sure I don't have any more emails showing in. Oh goodness, I sure as heck do. Hold on a second. Let's get rid of these. Oh, we got to find a way to fix that. Again, new system for getting the emails to us and me. Ooh, Pastor Fist the Magnanimous. Love it. Thanks for listening. Hold on. We'll see if we actually get to you. What? Yeah, there's all these emails here. Do not want anybody to have bad things. All right. Coming back to it. Gotta keep the focus where it needs to be. I was curious about the possibility of an Australian becoming a member of the LCMS. My girlfriend lives in Kansas City, born and raised LCMS girl. I'm visiting, want to know if I could be a member, living abroad, receiving communion while visiting her church. How long are you going to be there? That's the question. If you are a member of a certain Lutheran church, we're in fellowship with somebody in Australia, so it has everything to do with where you go to church now. Are you wanting to become a Lutheran for the first time and get confirmed? Yes, you can do it, but then that'll impact things beyond whatever few months you're visiting. If you're visiting and planning to live here forever, of course you can join an LCMS church. So I'd recommend talking to the local pastor where you're going to be. Find that place online, find a pastor, get in touch with them now, and figure it out. Because the answer is probably, yeah, why not? I don't know, why not? Oh, look at this. Look at this. You're going to win. How do I do it? Hold on. That was clever. This was clever. That was clever. That was clever. Good job, Jeffon. Totally. Almost. For reals. All right. Going back. Firefly. And Chinese cuss words. Looking into your stuff on cussing and cursing. Yes, that's what I want to be known for. After I'm known for being a guy who spends too much time with his kids... I want to be known as the guy, as the Christian pastor who writes diatribes on fake cussing. and really what it is on is language theory. I'm just a nerd on that level. But looking into that, sure. I wonder if you've watched Firefly. I did. It was a long time ago, and what a disappointing ending. The movie was terrible. The fact that they are cussing in Chinese gets them past FCC guidelines, but the intent is the same. I found it an interesting thought. Yeah, well, it's the same kind of idea. I don't care about the guidelines so much or about TV so much. I think TV is going to have cussing on it. TV, FCC. You think that's how stuff works now? I mean, yes, once upon a time. But Netflix don't care. You know? Who's really, really controlling the entertainment in the future? Cussing is going to be so normalized that Grandma Schmidt in 100 years will be using the F-bomb with her pastor and not even thinking about it because it just won't mean anything. It'll just be a meaningless word. And my whole thing is, I'm not going to fight the fight of stopping that. Like, that seems ridiculous to me. How about we fight the fight of intellectually processing the information that is actually conveyed by the words as they're being used and responding appropriately as a Christian, time and space. Like, that sounds better to me. Call me crazy. I am. I admit it. So, but no, I have not really thought about it with regards to foreign language to use it. My point is always along the lines of, I want to be real. I want to sound real. I want to communicate what I actually think. And English is amazing for this. Vernacular English and LCMS piety English are very different things. And they interface generally with great animosity. And that's the main thing I want to shift. It's like, we got to be a little less uptight about how the pagans sound and how we sound when we talk in their language. You want to preserve a language, let's preserve biblical language. Not worry so much about the King's English and all that. So, all right, Firefly, kaboom. Firefly, with fondness do I remember Firefly, I will say that. The genius, it was utter genius to realize that Star Wars was always a Western. And what if I just went ahead and made Star Wars a Western and then make a TV show? That was great. That was so clever. And I can't believe it has not been done again. Not Firefly particularly, but more space Western. Cowboys and Aliens was almost interesting. Daniel Craig's is great in general, but they didn't really pull it off well. But again, that same kind of fusion. Why is there not more space Western? I don't know. Because, drink water. Am I familiar with the Red Letter Challenge? It is written by an LCMS pastor. As I begin reading it, I find that doesn't line up with Lutheran thought. Was wondering if you had seen it, had an opinion, yada yada. I am not familiar with it in any way, shape, or form, so I cannot speak to the particular book, the Red Letter Challenge, although I find it fascinating that an LCMS pastor wrote such a book, given that this is not a new idea, nor one which is particular to the LCMS, even as language. So the language, Red Letter Challenge, I'm pretty confident I've heard that before, not trademarked by anybody, but just a mindset of being like a red letter Christian, right? So I don't remember where this came out of, but I would assume I ran into it engaging with kind of proto-liberal thought masquerading non-inerrancy as some sort of pious higher belief in Jesus' words, right? So that I don't believe the Bible's true, but I believe all the red letters are true, and that's because Jesus is God and the rest of it's written by men, right? Like that kind of thing. And that's where I engaged it, but when we're talking like 20 years ago here. And so I have no idea how that interfaces with this idea. I know this. I think you should pay attention to the red letters. It's the word of God as man. But then if you pay attention to the red letters, I think they tell you should pay attention to the non-red letters too. So there's something beautiful about just reading the red letters. You read Matthew and just read the red letters one time. That's a nice read. It's a nice one-sitting read. That's good. Do it. Be devoted. But to make that any kind of level of doctrinal or spiritual or devotional ultimate real way to be a Christian, which is my engagement. I have no idea if this book does that, but that was my engagement with it before. That is diabolical at the end of the day. It's diabolical. It posits that there is a division between Christ's words as a man in history and Christ's words through his apostles. That is madness right there. So I have no idea if that's what he's doing. However, your notion or your contention that a book, you don't say, a book by an LCMS pastor doesn't line up with Lutheran thought. I don't know who Francis Jonas is. I don't know. But I know that consistently he has crushed me on the bestseller lists of Lutheran Christianity in Amazon.com sales consistently for years now through 2 different books, many books that he doesn't have many new ones out there. They'll sell for $2.99. Learn powerful prayer, healing in 10 minutes. Like that kind of thing. I'm not kidding. He's got like 5 of them up there. The guy's got to be rolling in it, honestly. $2.99, he's probably getting a book on the top of the bestsellers every month. He's making $1,000 a month on that. I bet you. Maybe more on that nonsense. Anyhow, Is he a Lutheran pastor? I don't know. His books are in Lutheran Christianity. They beat out the small catechism, right? Regularly. So you're surprised that you found a self-published book by somebody. I don't know. I'm not surprised when I get stuff from within good Lutheran circles, and it's like, well, that wasn't that good. So the ability, this is my whole point. The argument, the whole cursing thing, the argument that we would argue about the piety of the word from German Scheiße, in English feces, poop, and other S beginning words, that we would argue about this or considered a mark of some spiritual preference, while we don't know how to engage the white noise attack of darkness and death around us enough to not swallow up radicalism and just start parodying it as our answer. Like, that's the problem. That's the problem. I want us to learn how to think. That we don't need more heart knowledge. We need more head knowledge that scares the bejeebies out of our hearts and wakes the bejeebies up out of our hearts and inspires the bejeebies out of our hearts too, like all these things. Not just about fear, but fear. Oh, I was thinking about fear the other day. Fear. I don't know if this is true or not. I just postulated it in the shower. Shower thoughts. Fear is the purpose for which God created man. Also, love is the purpose for which God created man. Fear and love are one. This is a known thing, but it can only be believed. Now, all that comes out of, I was pondering, I think, Luther's answer to the first commandment, you shall have no other gods. What does this mean? You shall fear, love, and trust in God above all things. And pondering the relationship between fear and love, which every Lutheran pastor has to teach about, and none of us really, I think, quite get. Luther wrote it. We think he's right. The Bible talks that way, but we're always at pains to figure out this fear word. We're defending it, right? Apologizing for it. So I was pondering that. And pondering that maybe there's a way maybe we villainized fear in a way that is wrong. Maybe fear is good. Maybe fear is awesome. People like horror movies like fear. I don't like horror movies. I don't know. So I was thinking about that as well. We need more fear. And fear is a matter of the heart. It's the mind killer, as the pagans wisely taught. Fear is a matter of the heart. We need more of that. But we need also the mind to not be overrun by the fear, but instead from the fear to relish the word of God all the more. So that we don't fear teaching new doctrines in Lutheran circles. And we don't fear, the loss of the church on Western shores in 25 years or less. Hello, yes, what's her name? I'm the radical screaming senator speaking doom for the world, only it's not about green, it's about, churches. Well, I don't know. 25 years, I don't know. I just think it's changing, right? And we're unprepared. There's a marvelous moment in a cartoon trailer for World of Warcraft. Now I'm not even going to remember what the name of the expansion was, for Pete's sake, where the elves are. They're so good. And they end up going to fight this elf turned half demon. He's blinded, but he can still see, and he's really cool. And you're getting ready to go fight him, and he's yelling, "You are not prepared." And it's you want to do it, right? You want to be part of that. And that's the fear in a good way that let's fight, right? That I think we need a little more of with regard to what it's going to be like to be Christians and Lutherans in America. I don't think they're going to kill us. I don't think they're going to round us up and put us in camps. I think we're going to get more and more obscure. And That's okay. It's fine. We should embrace it and use it for our advantage, right? But that takes thinking. Why am I talking about this? That takes thinking that is not about borrowing ideas from other. How to point right here? Borrowing ideas from, where is it? We're gonna go right here. Borrow right here. Like this. It's not about borrowing ideas from other radical, weirdo, failed attempts to review and renew everything. It's about taking what you already know to be true forever and putting that as the groundwork and bedrock of what you build new, because you have to build new because all the old's fallen down. And every congregation in America, I think, unless they're a mega church, is facing this challenge right now. You have to build on something that means something real. And stop borrowing from trendy ideas that are being sold to you. And religion, of all things, of all businesses, needs to do that most. And Lutheranism, of all religions, perhaps is the most self-loathing one that won't do it. Heaven help us. Being German in America comes with a lot of shame. Lot of shame. So, am I familiar? No. And will I become familiar with the Red Letter Challenge? No. Whatever. I don't know. Maybe it's great. The book might be great. My engagement with that kind of thinking of old, it was killing the church back then. Why would we do it again? While listening, I was thinking about your topic of insularity. I think early communion is another way of losing Lutheran insularity. Maybe. Yeah, maybe leap in logic, he admits. But I think that taking the supper seriously is moving away from the current malaise affecting our churches. Yes, this would be why I wrote a book about the idea. So kind of a fascinating thing without flesh. You should check it out. Thoughts? Yeah, I wrote a book about the idea. So I think it's pretty important to take the supper seriously. And that, like if all the things we know are never going to pass away, that are shown to happen every single week throughout history since Jesus rose from the dead, eating bread and wine together, like everything else has crumbled to dust in some way, shape, or form, but that one hasn't. So yes, I think that's the kingdom of God, and we should probably hitch our wagons to that thing hard, given the storm is blowing right now. So yes, I wrote a book about it. You said that we do not take it as seriously as we should, and up to 6 months ago, I've not understood what you're getting at. Since moving to another church, both of them LCMS Lutheran, I began to understand the issue. I'm curious what the practices were that you found that then made you start to say, wait a minute, we aren't taking this very seriously anymore. But I'll tell you what an easy one to do is. You walk back into the sacristy after everything has been put away on a Sunday afternoon. You find out if there is wine in little tiny cups in the garbage can, and that will tell you how seriously you even are beginning to take the real presence of your God. I'll just let that hang there for a minute, because that's a thing. And yeah, you can head trip your way into saying, well, it stopped being Jesus after. Okay, fine, sure. Well, the host vehicle for the real presence of your God, you have now trashed. Did you even recycle the plastic cups? Right? The thing about those cups is not that they stop the sacrament from being the sacrament. They don't stop the sacrament from being the sacrament. They just don't display a whole lot of revered fear. You know? That's all. That's all. So, yeah, we need to take it more seriously. What were the things that caused you to start wondering about this? I'm going to run this, by the way. I said a thought. I'm going to run backwards here. And I'm going to run this through the head knowledge, heart knowledge thing. Which is missing from a set of cups with the potentially divine blood of Jesus inside of them in a wastebasket in your local church? What's missing? Is it head knowledge or is it heart knowledge? Because if you look at it and you say, well, it's the blood of Jesus, well, that would kind of be head knowledge. So you need that, right? But couldn't you look at it and say that's the blood of Jesus and walk away from it still? Yeah, you could. So you kind of need heart knowledge. You need like a guilt would be the appropriate response, I think. It's seeing desecration usually. So you would need both head knowledge and heart knowledge. See, I say this to just, again, show you the stupidity of the question or the argument from before. Not the question, it was the argument. Like, you just can't divide these things. There's no difference. But certainly, thanks for the pitch for Without Flesh. We do need the supper to be the heartbeat of the church. With the LCMS, not only am I sure, next question, if I believe like a Lutheran, but the LCMS churches in the area build themselves away from people who use public transportation. This is a really important question. And they don't offer rides. Trust me, I checked. Yeah. Because many places that offer full-time employment don't accommodate people who need to go to specialists for health issues. I'm forced to work part-time. And the LCMS has decided to build itself where an apartment can easily go for over $1,000 a month. Well, and again, your income and your rent, that can change based on where you live. So that's all a thing. But I will completely admit that the LCMS as a unit has absolutely zero planning whatsoever with the locations of its churches, outside of district guidance through multiple committees, largely run by random opinions of those with emotional status in local congregations to be the loudest ones. Right? That's ultimately the decision-making process. And of old, the theory that guided it most was that because it was not the village, the church was sort of a club in the heart of the village, and so that should be somewhere near the houses. So that led to a very middle-class, suburban, but buried off Main Street placement of almost every single LCMS church that exists. Not all. There were city churches. We lost a lot of them, but many. This is like a century of just kind of network decision-making, never really being questioned, I don't think, or looked at real deeply, because we don't have the capacity to do it, because the LCMS doesn't run anything. Congregations all run themselves. And the congregations do not have a real clean or clear prescription when it comes to things like who should we think about besides ourselves when we put a church building up. And even if you have the pastor thinking about others a lot, which I'm living this one right now, by the way. Even if you have a pastor thinking about others a lot, the will of the unit to think about anyone but themselves and convenience as Americans when putting up a building that's going to cost them, this much money. Someone in the congregation is going to be paying. If they build a building, someone in the congregation is paying at least $1,000 a month for like 5 years. You probably have 4 or 5 families have to do that to build the building. Of course, they're going to put it where they want to put it, and not somewhere that, well, in this case, you mentioned uses public transit. Now, public transit is a different thing everywhere else as well. But what am I doing right now? I'm not trying to make an excuse. I'm just describing reality and how it doesn't change. And as much as I would really love to see a mindset shift in the LCMS, especially when it comes to mission, there's less concerned with putting up buildings and more concerned with having pastors in areas, that would be awesome. And it would be able to help you in some way. Or even to begin to learn about public transportation in the area. But like, I know there's no way that public transportation is going to get someone where my church is right now on a Sunday morning. We do have people that help with rides. So that's amazing to me that they turned you away. I can't really speak to that. But it is a problem. But the other problem is that we want convenience as Americans, which is the same question you're asking. You're asking for convenience. And at the end of the day, the reality, I'm not telling you that it's right how we got to these positions. I'm telling you the reality of the future is that the location of a church near you that you can go to is going to be an increasingly valuable commodity. And the sooner you realize that, the more happy you're going to be with your life as a Christian. The sooner you realize that living near my church and that I need a good church that's going to stay a good church that I can trust, or I can be part of it, that is going to be something that if you want a blessed and enjoyable Christian American life, short of them gassing us, which I don't think they will do, you will benefit oodles by making that like a 10-year goal, right? That I'm going to figure out how to get from where I am, where I can't go to church, to where I need to be, where I can go to church. And now, you're not even sure if you believe like a Lutheran. Fair enough, right? I mean, that's kind of an issue. In theory, that would be what the local church would help you do. The local pastor would be there to do that for you, to figure that out. But you're pointing out a really good hole in our system. We love to talk about mission, give money to it. We have missionaries trying to foreign lands. We have a couple here, but we have a very different approach to it that is not, it's career oriented, and it's well, I just don't know if they can hold up capacity. That's a different thing. All right. Who am I? What do I know? What is this? Ooh, that one's long. Suicide. This one's gonna be scary. I'm gonna skip that for just right now. I'm a little sad today, and so I do not want to just jump into that one without thinking about it. I'll probably come back to it. But I don't want to miss. Oh, hold on. Oh, thank you. Look, I was so naughty. I was not fast enough. Let's see. I need to go here. Can I hit a button? There it is. Oh, you saw the auto thing go. We had some super chats, and they are coming. I wanted to finish my thought there on that. But Miss Harris, thank you, $25. Woohoo! Head knowledge, heart knowledge, all too familiar. Having left that behind, those words made me throw up a little in my mouth. Yeah. What we need is not head knowledge and heart knowledge. What we need is the mind of Christ. And his mind is pretty tied to his heart. You know, we don't even have a heart. I mean, you have a heart. You don't even have a heart that like is this thing that's not your mind and your body all at once. When you feel angry, where does it happen? Your fingers can feel the anger, right? I mean, you're an entire thing. It's all one, the mind. But again, the logos, pathos, ethos understanding, which Lutherans also see in the threats of mysticism, moralism, and not environmentalism, no, not so much, but rationalism, yes. That's a real thing. Yeah. So to speak of the mind of Christ, to speak of hearts filled with the knowledge of God, to speak of hands busy with good works, to speak of tongues that confess the name with understanding and logos, right, words. This is all very good, but I'm totally with you. Like the argument, it's like a child made it. It's like when you believe something that dumb long enough and then you finally get out of it, it makes you want to throw up in your mouth. I get it. Totally cool. Totally right on. Super chat from Segro Create says, what is your thoughts on Lars Levi Laestadius? I know not him, but his name is sweet. That's what I got on that one. Also, thanks for your work. Been a ninja since 2013. God's grace and peace on your ministry. Can someone find us a link and throw it in the side for Lars Levi Laestadius? Is that his real name? That's not fair. That's just not fair. My name ain't bad. I mean, it's kind of boring, but what a name. I'm jealous. If someone could find that, Lars Levi Laestadius, and throw up a link or a small description on the side, I might be able to speak to it quickly, but I don't know him, so I cannot at all. And I apologize, because Super Chat is the kind of thing that I want to give heed to. But I will not be able to go do deep research on Mr. Lavius for you. Lavius? Lavivius. I could change my last name to Fiscius. Doesn't quite work as well. You're making me tangent. You did it. It's your fault. I've been on a trip recently, trying to re-identify with my roots. Right. I never really cared much about roots. The movie was good. Miniseries. I mean, like mine, like my heritage. I don't know if America did that to me or German shame did that to me or what have you. But I really wasn't that into it. And then recently, I've just kind of been thinking about it more and wondering why not, especially since my last name's not German. I'm not German. I mean, I am. I got a lot of German blood in me via some moms and whatnot. But I have a strong, also Northern European, but not German set of bloodlines that includes a little bit of French and a lot more of Scottish and a touch of possibly Danish, definitely maybe some English, but probably not, because the English is also one with the Norse. And the Norse is, I believe, with a hint of Scottish coming in as well, that whole package of Northern English Isle is Viking blood. I don't know how else to say it. You can go watch Netflix about the various trials. There's some really great miniseries out there, or series out there. The trials of life as like the one. I'm trying to think of the name of the series now, where this guy, he's a lord on northern England before southern England has conquered everything, but he's still in kind of relationship with southern England, and even then submits a little. But his his bloodline and heritage is Viking, is Norse, and Saxon even. I think they might even call him Saxon. And yet there are more coming from further north, and they're more violent and fighting. There's all this warfare going on. So these lords who were kind of living in the Western civilization's growth and order, first converted from Viking, but not really converted to Christianity at all, but live there and end up becoming, British lords at a certain point. True British lords hundreds of years later. Well, Fisk, during that time period in that mix, ceases to have an E on the end of the name. And then, so Fisk, I am a descendant of somebody from that realm. It doesn't mean it was a noble. Although, no, he was. There was a Lord Fisk who was a noble at some point later in all this thing, from whom eventually my lineage comes. So that while I do have like a 50% German bloodline with Baumgarten and Krum, the name which has gotten through all this madness, of which I am, to my knowledge, in the recent vicinity of my bloodline, the last living male, is Viking. And it's kind of fun to play with that and just be like, oh, you know what? I'm a Viking. Okay, this is cool. I can be a Viking. I can embrace this. Do I have Viking stuff? Not enough. I'm contemplating a meerschaum pipe with a Viking head on it. It's too deep and it's too big, but it's really cool looking. And it gives me a little bit more heart for. He was a Swede, not a Norseman like myself, but a Swede. Gustavus Adolphus, Lion of the North. That whole story, I've told that before other places. It's so cool, right? So really loving that, and I got onto that because of your super chat. I don't even know what it was. The great name, Lars Levi Lestadius. Because, yeah, Jonathan Fisk. Fisk with an E is a river in Norway from which you can get salmon. So apparently there was a lot of salmon eating going on. So one of those guys catching salmon one day decided he was going to be a lord in Britain, or his great-great-great-grandson would be. And he probably did some really evil things, I imagine. But yeah. Fisk. Meh. McAdam's my middle name. That's the Scottish side. Anyway, I don't know that story much. Let's see here. Son of Adam, though. Cool name. We're going to go back to some questions because I don't see any more links. Oh, Fisk is a lutefisk. Yeah, you're just making fun of my name. See, that's the thing. You got the Swedish. I'm sorry. Thanks, Darth Make. We're friends. But like, that's Swedish, not Norse. And the Norse are not Swedish. I think they all know that. We all know that. Do you know that? Lutefisk. That's not where it comes from. That's what the Swedes did. The Norse went and they conquered. They were wicked. They were pagans. I am not seeing any links to Levi guy. That was a sweet name though. It's like Modest Yahoo. So I'm gonna go back to your questions. Here we go. What time is it? Bumpa 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock. I want to make sure we get to manual focus. RevFisk, I've come to Lutheranism from an evangelical free church. My question is regarding how I should approach Holy Communion. I have not yet been confirmed at an LCMS church I'm attending. I am under instruction with the pastor. Should ask him. In the meantime, I still attend the E-Free Church. It's my wife's church from childhood. Should I still take communion at the E-Free Church? No! Ask your pastor. No! Where they hold a representational view of communion. It's not communion. It's not communion. It is bread and wine. And they're playing house. They're playing church together. It is not communion. You should refrain. If you're going to join an LCMS church into true communion, a non-radical trust in the sacrament, then why would you ever want to take a false sacrament? Even though it's not false as in a cup of demons, probably. There are places that are. But it's probably not that, but it's not the cup of salvation. It is a shadow and a mimic and a fraud. So yeah, I would say no, you shouldn't. You should be friendly about it. Be like, no, I'm going to the real thing now. Welcome home, right? If Rome can do it, why can't we? Welcome home. Yeah. So I hope that helps. I don't know if that does, because that's a really hard answer, but I'm sure your pastor will agree with me. He should. Our LCMS church is currently in the process of calling a new pastor. I'm serving on the call committee. As a new Lutheran who fled the evangelical church years ago, I have been alarmed at the amount of revivalist, seeker-sensitive, radical language I have seen in the profiles of potential candidates. Yeah. It may be that I'm easily triggered. Nope. I'm going to call your spidey senses good ones. Trust them. You're triggered by certain buzzwords of my background. I am nervous. You should be. What suggestions do you have for making sure the man we call is a solid confessional pastor who hasn't bought into revivalism? Ask him to his face. Directly. How do you feel about revivalism? And if he goes, I don't really know what that is, you don't want him. And if he says, I know what that is. What do you mean? I love the liturgy. You go, oh, well, there you go. No. Ask him to his face. Ask him what he plans to do. I would, depending on how big your church is. I mean, the churches ask all the wrong questions. I'm sorry. We ask all the wrong questions when we interview a pastor. I would ask two things, like, and not everyone has to agree with me on this one, but like, I would be like, right, tell me your favorite 10 hymns and how many of them can you quote from memory? That'll tell me whether or not you love singing about Jesus or not, for reals. And then I would ask you, look, here's 5 bullet point issues we face as a congregation right now. Our location, attendance, blah, 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 blah. You give us your 5-year plan for what that looks like in semi-detail, including what you're going to do the worship service. You give us a 10-year plan of what you're going to do the worship service. I want to know what it is. I want all of us to know what it is in as much detail as possible. And then when you call him, you tell him he can do it. And you're behind it. You know what it is, right? But if I got the guy dropping seeker-sensitive language in his question thing, his call-out sheet, whatever that thing's called, I can't remember. The set, ugh, it's an acronym you don't want to know. Yeah, if he's dropping seeker-sensitive stuff in there, it means he probably isn't even paying attention to the arguments. He's just reading that stuff, and it's going to influence him because he's not learned to tell the difference between a good diagnosis and a good prescription. Watch out. Oh, sorry about the burp. How can you know? Ask him. Have better questions. Get good consultation. Find a local pastor in your area who you trust at another church that you know is good, and come with your responses and thoughts from what you see to him and ask him for advice. In theory, that should be your circuit counselor. In theory. May not be. Sometimes even some of the trees are on her side, as it was once said. All right. I think that's good for this one. Suicide. I said I'd come back to it. A friend of mine lost her son to suicide. He was 19. The anniversary was the other day. I'm not sure to answer this question to someone who is relatively unchurched. Below is her post. Here's a dangerous question for Facebook land. If our children are actually God's and he just gave them to us as a gift, he needs them for whatever reason. Why the hell did he give us to him at all? Okay, I'm following this here. I'm just going to break this up to see a little more here. Just to take away. Is that what it is? Is that what you know? I don't know what to hear. There is no God. I don't want to hear God as a plan. We just don't understand. We just have faith, blah, blah, blah. And I agree. Like, those are terrible things. It's a cruel ass joke. Hey, Puppet Master, I hope you're having fun. So this is me embracing the question. Well, that is a whole lot of ignorance and folly and sadness. And it's sad because everyone has spoken to her previous to this to lead her to despair in this moment. She has nothing to come to because it's all been made platitudes before this or nonsense. And so the most she's got of God is a puppet master. Like, that's really sad to me. I would not respond to this on Facebook, just straight up. I would never respond to this on Facebook. There's no way. I might send a private message saying, hey, you want a cup of coffee if you can, something like that, because you're never going to get through this in text. I might, maybe put a Bible verse that said nothing other than, all sins will be forgiven or something like that. But it's pretty rough. So here's the thing. This is why it's so important for you to think about the things of God before your problems start. Because thinking in the midst of your problems doesn't work out real well. Like, oh, I'll do that later. I'll figure that out later. And then life really, can't you say the word, really messes with you. And you are unprepared for the fight. And so the best you got is that God's a cruel ass joke. That's the best you got. Because you were unprepared for the fight. Now here's the thing. I mean, it sounds to me like this person had some Christian faith, right? Maybe, maybe not. But what this person just doesn't know is that the children are actually God's, and so is she. Which is why this life is not only death now. Like, her son was going to die anyway. Like, that's the problem. That's the problem. God has slowed the death down so that he can save us from the death. We don't die immediately. We're not all burned in fire in Adam and Eve right away. But the death was given a time limit, a frame in which God, as the man Jesus Christ, entered to defeat it. So that this life is not the hope, and that is where she is lied to. She has hope for this life. She had hope for this life, and she worshipped her family in that regard. And we all do a little bit. But she had no counter worship. She had no belief her children were going to die. I believe my children are going to die someday. I'm already prepared for that. I'm aware of it. It could happen any day, really. I hope it won't. But I am vigorously and mentally prepared for that, with the intentional understanding of my faith and the teaching of death in the world that is obviously there in Christian doctrine, but somehow we don't catch the doctrine. We sit there and we listen to it and we don't catch it. So you have someone, I don't know if she is or not, but you have someone who's been a Christian her entire life long, perhaps. I've seen, if not her, somebody else, who then is surprised that somebody died. Where do you live? And we sit there and we let Psalm 23, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. The Lord is my shepherd. All we can think about is the Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. We ignore the valley of the shadow of death. It's the whole stinking planet, my friends. Golly. We don't prepare. We don't pick up our sword. We don't train. We have no discipline. We lounge around like the pagans, thinking it's all just going to work itself out somehow. We wonder at the sky, why is the weather changing on us? We don't understand the storms of our times. The zeitgeist, what zeitgeist? Oh, I don't know, I'll read a book and use some revivalism. That might help. And then something real happens like this. A real fight. You go to a real mat with a real demon. That you didn't even know there was a fight coming. And just a little bit of invocation of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and a little bit of 10 Commandments and Creed and Lord's Prayer every single day would have prepared you for this. Let me just suggest. I would not respond to her. She's in so much pain. I feel so bad for her. I would wait and I would reach out to her later and I would ask, how you doing now? I wouldn't try to give advice. She doesn't want advice. She wants people to feel the pain with her, and that's understandable. And someday I would hope I could say to her, I can't wait till you see your son again. But I don't know the circumstances. That would require that he be a Christian and she be a Christian. But that's the hope. If my child dies, I am not going to comfort myself by believing God has a plan, although I will. I will not care about my understanding. I will by no means attempt to have more faith. What a disastrous comment that is. I would bow on my face in the ground before my king and say, long lives the king. And thank you for giving me the assurance that I will most definitely see my son again. Or daughter. And then I would try to get up and not shout at the world, but smile at the world, because I don't wallow in the muck with those who have no hope. I do not grieve as those who have no hope. This is grief from someone who has no hope, and it's very sad. And it's sad that the messages being given to her are such that the such has brought her to this despair. Poor thing. Scripture to help her. I mean, I don't know that there is. And without knowing the context of who she is more, I mean, if she's a Christian, there might be. If she's not, I wouldn't even try. I just let the silence of the law that she's already in do its own work. If that makes sense. So, wow, that's deep. That's kind of why I didn't want to go there. Saturday morning chill, and 10:15. What time did I start? I started at 8:45. Yeah, late morning. All right, how are we doing over there in comment land? Well, that's a rough one. Dollism. I'm not going to pull that up because that was rough. Right. Well, since there is at least this. Nope. Too long. Actually, I think I might do something different. We've had a little bit. Oh, they're by name though. I don't know about that. We're cataloging some of the previous comments from the sidebar. So the stuff you've been asking on the side during the show, we're trying to grab real questions and put them together. That's what this is here, but that's a brand new idea. So I'm gonna leave that. I mean, we got a couple of you. Sorry, Matthew, Jonathan, Todd. You're outed. You're outed as fans now. We're gonna skip those. I think what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get off the small. Oh, that had to sound marvelous in your ears, podcast listeners. I am so sorry. Ticks. I'm working on my ticks, but I can't stop having a cold for a week and a half. We're gonna go back to that. I want to go back to this part of that. There it is. Sometimes it's nice to make sure you still have your makeup on. There you go. I'm not wearing makeup. What we're going to do here is, unless I see super chats, I missed a lot? No, I did not. I grabbed 2. There were only 2. Where are the other ones? They may are not showing up. I got Miss Harris. I got Seagirl Kate. Right? Oh, I did. Where are you? Vicky. Thank you. Why don't I get a sound for that? I should get a sound for that. Super chat, Vicky, thank you. I'm sorry. Forgive me. Your live chat is freaking out, sort of respectfully. You missed a super chat above. Thank you so much. I will go find it. Vicky, you're awesome. You paid for somebody else. That is a good work. Thank you. Where did I miss it? Way above. There, Carl. Have you read The One Thing by Gary Keller? No, I have not. Should I? If you have and have a deeper question, use RevFisk.com contact. Put a little comment about what it is and a link to it, and I will try to give answer to that on a future show. But I need you to send that through the system and do a little bit of research for me. At least give me a link that would describe what The One Thing is, Gary Keller. My reading list at this point is like 0. And that's one of those other things I'm trying to fix. It has been for too long, and the system just doesn't let me read what I want, let alone what I should. So no, new things like this, and definitely from outside of the LCMS, I'm not running around looking at other Christian stuff. When I'm reading other not Christian stuff, because that's the stuff that isn't generally filled with radicalism. Then I don't have to worry about it as much. I can spot Hinduism a lot easier. I don't have to worry about the rest of it. So there, was that it? I missed 2. I'm sorry. Carl, thank you so much. I appreciate it. No worries. Carl says Carl gets bonus fist bump. There it is. Good stuff, man. And thumbs ups. See, you got your money's worth. There you go. And thank you, Vicky, again for helping out. And we got all sorts of lols. All right. 2 more way up. Thank you. Yep, we got it. Cool. So I missed this Can I do it? I don't know if I can do it. Oh, stinking autofocus. Bother me. I missed this. Here we go. I missed that. Maybe remember that? Wasn't quite the same. It doesn't really work as well. So, one of the things I'm trying to teach myself, narcissist that I am, I've been called it, is that every thought that I have is not necessarily that good. Like, I know that. You know that. We all know that, right? But like I have thoughts. And I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. And like, I'll write it down. It's a good idea. So part of my way of trying to not let every good idea become something I write down, become something that's a goal, become something that's a law in my head. Sorry about the cold again. What I'm trying to train myself to do is to believe, first, they're not all as good as you think they are. And then on top of that, you can let a good idea die. It's okay. It can be a good idea and just that was its own value right there, right? But one of the things I'm doing is I'm just writing down a lot of stuff and then not really processing this particular journal. I've got a couple places where process stuff needs to go. So I wanted to throw out stuff from on here because it's like some of it's good, some of it's bad. And barring any super chats or missed super chats in the next 30 minutes or so, bumping my head. Does that make noise to you when I do that? I've just got to. Barring any super chats, I'm going to kind of just pull some of this out of here and see what we can talk about. I don't know. Start at the top, I suppose. There's a thought. Okay, I could talk about that, I think. Yeah. So, like, prayer. Like, my dad, God bless him, once sort of in an act of confession, I think, to me, talked about his prayer life as being not so much like a time-oriented thing, but like an awareness that God is there. Sorry, I'm making the camera shoot everywhere. An awareness that God is there, and like a the freedom to have a conversation with God at any time. And I was so relieved because I was like, well, that's how I view it too. That's kind of how I've been doing it my whole life. And there's something really good in that. I don't want to lose that. But there's something else about it that has begun to bother me personally, for me. Now, I'm not going to make a lot out of this at all. So please don't take this way. This is just what I'm doing to like enhance my piety. And maybe it will work, maybe it won't work, right? I might change it. But what I've been thinking about is how that answer is not like any religion ever, including Christianity. Even though Christianity has that as part of its religious structure, like you definitely are free to pray to God whenever you want. Like absolutely. Lord have mercy. Say it out loud often, right? That's kind of actually where I'm going as a point. But not without regular devotion. Right? Regular receiving of, praying to, sacrificing before. I mean, so Christianity clearly does not make sacrifices anymore. But to conceive of prayer as something that does not involve an actual, sorry, Vicky, you paid for it earlier. I'm going to give it to you now. It's worth it. I miss the cats and goats. Yeah, that's hard work. But yes, I do too. To conceive of prayer as something that is more than just random thoughts that God heard. And as an act of obedience and liege awareness. You know? And so for myself, what I've been doing is asking, well, so what if I treated like my personal emotional connection to prayer a little differently? What if I rebrand my emotional connection to prayer just by imagining for a moment that the triune God, I'll read you what I wrote. To pray to the triune God as if he were like the old gods, as opposed to a cheap reflection of the new gods. Oh, what do I mean by that? Well, probably a lot of things, but since the modern era, the view of God is very sterilized. Even our view of the Greek gods of old, very sterilized. We don't believe in anything spiritual right? The science. But as a result, modern worship is a lot more like going to school than anything else. Just about anywhere Western Civ has gone. You go down and visit a Roman Catholic church in deep Latin America, you'll find a different thing altogether going on. You go to an Eastern Orthodox Easter Vigil service, you'll find a different thing altogether going on. It's not a lecture hall. But we've kind of sterilized it into the lecture hall. Just a touch. And I wonder sometimes if that's where we've lost the palpability of our God, the proximity of Sinai, right? As Zion now, all that kind of stuff. So what it comes down to for me is it's not about anything. I mean, I don't believe there are old gods. I believe there are powers and principalities of darkness. I believe we have a one true triune God. What if I treated my prayer life with the one true triune God as if I were in a world in which there were old gods and new gods, and they were all real and they were all at war with each other, but mine was the real maker and creator? What if I just kind of imagined that, because it's actually pretty much just spot on true, and then, well, consider the things of his religion and begin to use them. I don't know, like a crucifix and a Bible, I don't know. I'm having fun with it, for whatever that's worth. Loving it. Love my crucifix now. I suddenly was like, you know what? I need a crucifix. If I'm going to sit here on the ground for an hour, prayer and ponder, read the scriptures in the Greek if I can. If I'm going to do that, why would I not have an image to remind me of why I'm doing this? An image of my God in action. An image of the God I think I'm praying to right now. Why would I not do that? Is it because we can't make statues? Well, we pretty much have decided that that's not going to work out for most of us. Even those who don't make statues still watch TV. So I don't know what they're thinking. Anyway, so I'm not going to go down the iconoclast argument right now. You can find that one if you want. It's a stupid argument. So if you're going to have an image to remind you which God you're praying to, just in case you look up in a moment of worry and you're like, I was just having this prayer, Lord, and I realized it was very selfish. I wonder who's leading this prayer moment right here. Maybe I'm worshiping the devil. Oh, look, no. See, Jesus, Lord of hosts. He's the one I worship. Thank God for Jesus. And it's crazy how in doing this, then, the crucifix has become something, for me, it's never been this. It's been something which, it takes away my shame. It's such a wonderful thing to have there for prayer. And so I told the story a little bit about the crucifix just so I could share. It's like, I didn't have one, right? But I did. A congregation of mine had given me one years ago. It's beautiful. And my wife had put it on just a wall. It was kind of not really fit there in the house, but we wanted to have it up. So it was there. So I went and I grabbed it. And now it's like, it's part of my little prayer tray. I got my candle. I got my Bible. I got my prayer tray. I put my coffee cup there. I sit down, take a deep breath. Because I worship the old gods that way. I don't know. It's great. It's great. Be creative. Get it back. Get the religion back. So, I'm going to leave that one for there. Checking the sides. Cigar aficionado. What is that? What is that? That is Arnold smoking cigars. This is a great article with Arnold. That guy's smart. I want to be like that guy. No. Yeah. I said that somewhere else, I think. Gonna skip all that. Make a noise. Yeah, that's all somewhere else. Skip all that. That's translation. That was fun. Oh, this is fun. I've been thinking about. So some of you have mentioned this other places too. Other people have. Like, why is it that we don't have like really awesome art as Christians? Like, you can go right now onto well, what's it called? It's not Daft Media. What's it called? Oh, that website where there's all the artists always put their stuff. It's like the big one. Dank Media. That's not right. Yeah, that's totally wrong. There's some naughty stuff on there, so you got to be careful. But anyway, there's all sorts of. It's like a Facebook LinkedIn for artists where there's all sorts of art. And it's all put out there for free to look at. Although to use it is not. Different artists have different levels of expectation or freedom for you to use their art. But you go on there and you start to kind of click through the links and what's like it and whatever. It's almost like a Pinterest. You can do the same thing in Pinterest. Just type in fantasy art in Pinterest. And in the amount of amazing landscape, I don't know what to call it. It's fantasy, but it's more than fantasy. Epic storytelling, inventive, world-shattering art that is going on the planet right now, just by people doing it, is unbelievable. And the number of DeviantArt. Thank you, Sarah T. Yeah, I know. I'm like, dank art. Stupid. I shouldn't call myself stupid. That's wrong. Misrepresentation. Deviant. See, I knew it had a D. Deviant with a T, right? Art. And it is, in fact, deviant. The point is, like, we don't care. But there's so much ability and talent out there to make art. And yet the only way we ever conceive of pictures of Jesus, in my experience, are very dated and childish. So I've been pondering that too, and I've talked about this before. I can do a thing about the Good Shepherd fighting the wolf, which would be a really cool statue. If you really did the Good Shepherd, the way the Good Shepherd is as a text, all that. But what do you think of this one? This is just for fun. So if we really are living in an actual post-Enlightenment dystopian world, which we are. Look around, start paying attention. It's kind of cool. It's like the coolest science fiction story ever, especially with Christianity being true in the middle of it, and you being a Christian, and Christianity being like a superpower and stuff. It's a pretty cool scenario. We're in a big fat war against our faith, but it's really neat. And in that scenario, in which we just imagine that we're in a dystopian video game together, right? We're living Fallout 4, only the bomb blew up not so much civilization, just the church, right? So, just the church and Christianity's influence on the civilization. In that world, which is sci-fi fantasy and doesn't really exist, except it kind of does, but doesn't. What would Jesus on his throne look like? With like all of our best fantasy and sci-fi merged into one picture. You know, I got something like, now I'm going to lose his name. It's not Galtar. The bad guy in Voltron. He is a emperor over a multi-star system galactic empire. He is evil as the day is long. He rules from this really big, cool, flying monstrosity planet ship on which he sits on an amazing throne. Now, I don't think Jesus is in space at all. If you want to believe that, go join the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, also called the Mormons, who do believe God is on a spaceship, at least officially speaking. I don't believe that at all. I believe Jesus is at the right hand of the Father. But how does he dress? I don't know. But I got to imagine him somehow, don't I? Yeah. So crucifix, very nice. I'd like the ascended Lord image though too, right? The Pantocrator image that's done not with a medieval picture, right, but with a post-enlightened sci-fi dystopic fantasy picture. What does that look like? So I got this image of this powerful throne and this guy with like a military vesture that he's got as he sits there and oversees the universe. But then I want to mix in some stuff. So it's like Warhammer meets Gears of War plus Game of Thrones and I don't know what that one says. Star Wars. Yeah, right. With a touch of Voltron. What does the King of the Universe look like on his throne, right? I don't know. What do you think? Wouldn't it be kind of fun? What kind of imagery would he have crafted in the steel behind him or whatever it is, right? Transparent aluminum, perhaps. And if you got that one, I'm kind of sorry, actually. So, yeah. Yeah, so it's like, and yeah, Warhammer 40K is mentioned right here by I Am Athanasius on the side. Like, I don't know enough about it, but you got these guys who wear these amazing armor suits, and they're out there fighting witches with like both holy books filled with truth, like a Bible, and and warhammers or whatever. Those Marines or whatever, Space Marines in the future one. But it's like they look. No, it's not the Space Marines. They're different, right? I don't know enough about it. They look really cool. Why not imagine ourselves that way? Why not? Why not? Why not? Thank you, Sarah T. I think our Christian sanitized culture, historical, hates new images of Christ. It seems to be. My MIL used to white out in books she would give my kids and white out Jesus with long hair because that, that's hippie. I'm not a fan of the long hair on Jesus because I think it's unbiblical, and it's feminizing. I'm more concerned about the feminizing of Jesus, but I think it is, exactly. Christian sanitized culture, sanitized by what? How much of our sanitization as Christian culture in America is feminism? I'm sorry. Don't yell at the messenger. Go smell it for a while. Look for it. It's overwhelming, the stench. It is anti-male, it is anti-woman, and it is where the sanitation has come from. Guys don't clean stuff. Guys don't clean stuff. So, that's maybe an extreme statement, but I would suggest to you that's your real thing. With that said, hating new images of Christ, I think we hate Christ, and, by nature. It's not easy to pick up a crucifix. There's nothing beautiful about a crucifix. It is ugly by definition until suddenly it's not anymore. There's nothing more beautiful in the world. But the same then goes, like when we do paint pictures of Jesus, we want Jesus to be beautiful. Why? Well, that's the case can be made that feminism is much more than a movement in the 1960s or whatever. Obviously, it's more than that, but it can also be like a whole Western Civ thing, the feminization of Western Civ, and the case has been made via art, and you can kind of see it pretty fast if you just Google, Romance era art, and find Jesus in it, and then you go Google like Eastern Orthodox icons from the same era, you're going to see masculine and feminine represented really clearly. And I don't know if it's true or not, but work has been done to try to connect this to, I think it's Bernard of Clairvaux and some of the work he did that maybe started that 1% grade that shifted the way we view Jesus in a feminine direction. And now we're centuries and centuries later from this. I don't know if that's true or not. But what I do know is that we don't like portraying Jesus as a man much. Very rarely will we paint or show, even in the stuff that has been done, you go back to some woodcuts from the 1500s, it's there, but you will not show the masculinity of the Bible. One of my absolute favorite pictures this is not Jesus now, this is the Bible, is David. I love this picture of David. Love this picture. I want this picture on a wall in a church for young men to dream of. He's a 12-year-old boy. And he's standing on the body of looks like a rock-sized body. It's a man without a head. And you see the cut off part of the head and the huge sword sitting on the ground beside him. And then this boy standing on him has his hands in the air and he's holding above him a head that is as big as his, torso, with like a big dent in the front side of it where the rock hit it. And around him, the armies of Israel are cheering. It's a beautiful, beautiful image. Not because the man Goliath died, that's sad. But because the man Goliath, Philistine as he was, and scoffer, blasphemer of the holy God, only represented his Lord, and his Lord is the devil. And that's what Jesus did to the devil on Easter Sunday. So that is missing from Jesus, period. Because it's missing from all of it, period, right? What we got is a bunch of old guys in bathrobes who are white. And that's not much culture. That's not much culture at all. Oh, for pity's sakes. Oh, my friends, what time is it? It is 10:38. We're clearing toward the end. I could probably give you one more of my absolute goofy things. Let's see. Oh, how's this? This is useless. I will never be able to use this, but I like it. I wrote a song to an old song. Every morning, I try to have a playlist. I hate iTunes and Apple Music. It is so frustrating. I just want more music on my phone easily. Why is it so hard? I want to cry about it. Every morning I have a playlist that I use. I try to manage my morning through habit repetition and then connecting music to it. So I look for music I can listen to over and over and over again as a pattern to make my morning go smoothly and just kind of not have to think about stuff for the first 30 minutes or so. And so one of the songs I always listen to while I'm stretching, if I stretch that day, is an oldie but a goodie, redone as, well, probably just redone by a band, but then used, and that I know about because of Sons of Anarchy, the TV show. And I'm going to come back to this thought because Jonathan Clay has just stepped up with, is that Freddie? Freddy Krueger, Jonathan? Are you being Freddy? You missed a super chat from Cafe Solo. Oh, I did again. If you have not heard of Theocracy's music, you should check it out. Solid theology, good melodic metal. Theocracy. Can you send me a link? Send me a best song? Something like that. That'll help me out a great deal. I missed... You guys just must be talking up a storm. Where's Cafe Sola? I don't see it. I'm going back. Miss Harris, was he before? I do know. Oh, there it is. That was small. It's just $5 from Cafe Sola. What's going on? One of my longest listening, most consistent viewer listeners. Thank you, Cafe Sola, for always sticking around. All right, and I saw one of you also, Jedi Knight, Anakin Cringe Walker. That's right, because whining always wins. I like this idea of an American sci-fi icon tradition. Amen. Let's do it. Let's do it. How do we make, if you go back and you find the woodcuts of Dora. Is Dora? No, it's not Dora. Yeah, it's Dora. I think it is. There is a woodcut for every story in the Bible. They're amazing. And Apocrypha 2. They're amazing. All in a series. What if we did that like as a sci-fi art random? Like, oh, it's so cool. You can't manage it, but it'd be so cool, right? And other people could do it, and you could do the same story twice, and who cares? Let's just catalog it all and do it, and like break the mold of Enlightenment strangle on our imagining our history. Why? Why not? Magic the Gathering's doing it all the time. They did a whole series. They got all this trouble for imagining a series of a future civilization that was kind of mixed between fantasy and like India. And they didn't do it right, and blah, blah, blah. But why not? Why not? It's great stuff, Jedi Knight, Cringe Walker. I'm with you all the way. I just can't do it. You lost the convection? The connection? Convection. Oh, wait. You guys did it again? Yeah, no. Hold on. Did I miss something? Yeah. I just didn't finish. I can draw, but specifically... Oh, Leto Atreides throne. Yes, exactly. Leto Atreides is the kind of image that we should have more of in Christianity. Not him, but that man is virtue. And yeah, good stuff. And that's from Dune. And if you do not know Dune, then you cannot read Goodnight Dune. And if you have not read Goodnight Dune, then you have not lived. So you must read Dune so that you can read Goodnight Dune, and then you will have lived. And you will understand the conversation about the art. So I was talking about, I wrote a song. So I listen to the lyrics of the song every day. It's a fine song in its original, but the Sons of Anarchy version is haunting and amazing. And Sons of Anarchy is another conversation. I did not like the ending. And it really wasn't any good after season 2. But blah, blah, blah. Good actors. From that show, a couple songs off its soundtrack, because great use of music usually for like stylized vignettes of TV. This version of Hey Hey My came into my life, and again has become part of my daily routine. And I don't mind the lyrics themselves because they aren't unwise. I don't need to think about Elvis every day myself, but there's some wisdom in the song and in the words of the song, so I really like it. I started rethinking them a little bit, just for myself, and I don't know. This will never be anything other than what it is right now, but it wasn't bad. So it's hey, hey, my. If the beat is real, it can never die. A sugar coat won't stop the sky. Hey, hey, my. New and improved, and no going back. They sold you that in a jumbo pack. Till you die, here, have a snack. New and improved, and no going back. There's too many kings and no more natives. 'Cause you're a Nazi mother explicative. It felt so safe. Safe is overrated. There's too many kings and no more natives. Hey, hey, my. Something real can never die. No one loses religion. We just deny. Safe for Zion's populi. Hey, hey, my. That ain't bad. Two I's already taken. Can't write a song someone else's song. You know, it doesn't work. But, yeah. I don't know what it's worth. 10:45. We're at the mark, my friends. It has been good. I have not talked. I'm going to stick around for one more thing. I'm going to tell you this. Lord have mercy on us all. Into the breach we go. I am, my podcast will come out later today. It's out there. I almost had a title. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Agoraphobia or something like that. Should be fun. That'll come out today. But I've been thinking about how to get back to Daniel, Revelation, that kind of thing. Although even what I'm doing with that took three tries. I recorded 3 podcasts before I got out this podcast. And 3 drafts effectively, and not all intentional, but is what happened. And I started thinking about how between SMChill and Thursday and how the Patreon cycle works and whatnot, the challenge is the clock and its control of the creativity in that midweek podcast, as opposed to this one, which is just come on, do it. And I started thinking about something that YouTube had promoted a while ago, which is that, not YouTube, I'm sorry, Patreon had promoted a while ago, which is to change all patron support from per thing, which it currently is per podcast, to a subscription plan. And you want to do it, but they won't let you go back once you do it. But if you do it, and you're getting someone to pay for something 4 times a month, it gets automatically turned into 1 time a month. And that would just destroy me financially. So I can't do it. I just can't do it. There's no way. I can't, because I know all of you say, well, we would change. Yeah, but somebody wouldn't. And it would set me back significantly. So I can't do it. But what I can do that would be very similar to that is I can start charging on Patreon for the posting of this, of Saturday Morning Chill, and then posting the other podcast, Mad Christian Podcast. This would be the, Saturday Morning Chill with Mad Christian, but the Mad Christian, whatever, bonus, whatever it's, God is judging Daniel, whether it's Revelation Unleashed, to continue publishing that, but not necessarily weekly or without the pressure to believe it's weekly. So I can simply focus on one of them at a time, as opposed to right now trying to do Daniel while also do other. It's not going to happen. Right. So, but I'm concerned about that too, because, you're signing up for what you're getting, and, I don't know, but you're paying for the whole thing. And if you're with me on Patreon, you got to understand you're paying for stuff you're not using, because there's too many things going on, but you're definitely paying for all YouTube engagement, for everybody, right? You're paying for, the podcast to be created for everybody. You're paying for me to broadcast my sermons. You're paying for me to broadcast my Bible studies and continue working toward doing that. You're paying for me to write, even though you already bought the book somewhere else. You're helping me continue to do that. So in that sphere, I cannot have the podcast, which is, I think, the most fun thing I do when I really do it well. In that sphere, I cannot have the podcast, which is going to live from my creativity, not be allowed to have any creativity because of a deadline. So if that makes sense, I'm pretty sure I'm making this move probably in 2 weeks. But I welcome your feedback. I hope you understand. I'm saying it in multiple formats so that hopefully you understand why I'm going to do that. The goal is to, again, get a better grip on major projects per day and letting them function into a long-term plan where the goals I'm going to have are the goals I'm going to achieve. And I'm not going to just have this list of dreams that never gets more than a bigger list. Right. So for what that's worth, I think that all makes sense. I'm sure you will let me know otherwise. Those of you who care, I will be, and if you're on Patreon, I'm planning to do a video like unto this one for Patreon specifically before anything changes there. And it won't affect you. I'm just going to post these when they are on Patreon as charges, and not charge the other ones, and it'll be 4 times a month, just like normal. So if you want to support me on Patreon, that'd be really great because it makes all this stuff happen. And it's how I buy stuff like the microphone. My wife showed me my budget from last week, or last month. I actually spent $1,000 all on this stuff last month. So I don't do that every month. I'm trying to remember what I bought. I bought a bigger thing. Well, I bought some Apple AirPods to use for processing and some video work and other stuff like that, but primarily for management and all that. So that was a big purchase. Jeez. They're cool, by the way. In the newsletter, I think I did talk about it already. They are amazing earbuds. After trying 5 different microphones now, and I spent, one of you out there just sent me one of the ones I've already tried. And like the review, you're right. The review says it's great. I'm sorry. It's not great. There's nothing great about it. Not for my usage and not for ease of use. One of the best things about the AirPods is once you get them connected to your iPhone and your Mac, getting it back and forth is as simple as the machine you're on right now, going to it and clicking it. Whereas everything else I've used before, I would have to disconnect it from my computer first and then connect it with my phone. This is huge. If you're talking about like being in the car and trying to get to a point where you're going to say something and it's speaking to text or Marco Polo or what have you, this is huge to not have to fiddle with stuff with your hands, and that's been a huge thing. So anyhow, I mean that's what it does. That's what Patreon does. It allows me to keep pushing in those directions, and eventually, I don't know. Most of the stuff on the wall behind me I didn't buy. I bought the empty box. You want to see something cool? It's gonna fall now. Don't fall. I think this is so cool. So like for my life as a gamer, this is nerd stuff right now because we're done. We're over time. Can you see it? For my life as a gamer, I've always understood that you need dice sometimes. And dice are fun to buy. They're like pretty and stuff. And they're shiny. So I've always understood that I need dice sometimes. And then I've always like seen people that we use bags. There's dice bags, which you do. And different kinds, but it's just got to reach in the bag and find. It's very much picky, and it's like having a puzzle every time you got to find a die. So I found this cigar box, and I was just so tickled. Can you see it? Isn't that the coolest little cigar box ever for all of my D12 and D20 and all the way down? I have almost every die in the house in here except for the ugly ones, which I threw away. And now that's our dice box. And it can't fall out. I am the happiest man about this thing. I'm so happy I decided to put it up here. Next to Arnold, who knows better. Oh, come on now. I'll fix that later. Next to my awesome Magpuls that my head elder gave me. So I feel like I should make more announcements. But you just pour the dice out of the bag. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I got all the. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for being with me today. I'm gonna get about my life, and you should get about yours as well. It is. That's not a good way to end. There's a better way to end than this. It's time to end. Don't wallow in the muck, my friends. I will see you soon. Watch for the podcast this afternoon. Harry Potter and something agoraphobia. Blah blah blah. Don't wallow in the muck. Rock on.